Wallace Cemetery represents a space that spans about 200 years. Our research indicates that it began as a plantation graveyard. You can visibly see about 250 grave sites, but we have been able to document and show that there are over 1,400 individuals that are buried in the cemetery.
And you said it was a plantation cemetery at one time.
Yes, that's what our research indicates. Based off the date of our first burial, which was in 1807, which predates the state of Mississippi's conception. Also, this street here, west of here, that used to be Master Street, and we also know that there was a plantation where not too far from here, and so we believe this was part of the plantation owner's land, and this is where he would bury his slaves. There are ex-slaves that are buried here, and so all of those indicators show that this probably began as a plantation graveyard.
Can you tell us what those brick structures are right behind you?
Yes, those are actually mausoleums, which are above the ground tombs, which there are people buried in, and then you'll see many of them throughout the cemetery, but we also have below the ground graves with traditional headstones and markers to showcase where people are buried at.
And you said that you have what's believed to be the first two statues of African Americans in the cemetery.
Yes, we have two statues here. One is of Jim Hill, erected in 1903. It's a statue made out of granite and marble. It's hand carved, and it's a replica of what he looked like. It wouldn't have been able to be built anywhere else in our city except his burial site, and we haven't found any research that refutes that this is the first one, meaning we don't have any other statues that were of African Americans built before 1903.
Okay, so tell us about the other statue you have over here.
So Ida Revels Redmond is the daughter of Hiram Revels, the first African American U.S. Senator elected to the U.S. Senate. Her statue is made out of granite and marble, and she was important for the women's suffrage movement, and her husband was Dr. Redmond, who was a doctor for the West Jackson community, and her son went on to become a lawyer. He graduated from Harvard and went on to be an NAACP lawyer. And so basically these statues show the importance of these two individuals and what they meant to our community.
When you were talking about the files regarding the graves, tell us how they were recorded.
Well, on your death certificate that's located, all the death certificates from 1909 to 1943 are located in the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, and they're sorted by county. And so what Jackson State University did was we went down and we pulled all the death certificates in Hinds County, and we deciphered who was buried in Mount Olive. That information is on the death certificate, and so that's how we know that there's 1,400 individuals here, because it's identified on the death record.
And the classifications for the race, talk a little bit about that.
So there's lots of information that you can gather from the death certificate, including date of birth, cause of death, color classification, and genealogy, who your family members are. The color classification was interesting because this cemetery is an African American cemetery, but there were 5 different color classifications for African Americans that were yellow, black, Negro, colored, and 2 individuals was actually listed as light. And so when you look at the death certificate and it has the color classification, those were the terminologies that was used throughout the past 200 years.
How did that strike you?
Well, it's just what the research indicates. It's interesting because you can look at different periods of time and see what terminology was used for a particular period. So that's always interesting. But I pride myself, and here at Jackson State we pride ourselves in just telling the story of what the research indicates.